isn't it?
Well, let's start with that part of your question.
Okay.
Where does it come from? It's not as satisfying a discussion as you might be hoping for when we say that what is regarded as bad or as evil is simply the absence of something wanted. So when you think about how many people or how many consciousnesses, because it's not only humans, have been sifting and sorting through the data of life, knowing what they don't want and therefore knowing what they do want, that in the knowing what you do want, you also know what you don't want. In other words, you could not focus anything into reality or into consciousness if there were not the contrasting aspects of it. So the more unkind someone is to you, the more you desire a kinder world. And the more you desire a kinder world, then the more uncomfortable something that isn't kind feels to you. Everything is proportionate. In one of the writings that Esther was getting from Jerry the other day, he was describing to her that he understood completely the depth of her love by the depth of her pain. They are equal parts of the same thing. It's just when you reemerge into non-physical, you reemerge fully into all that you consider to be good and all that has erupted or evolved that is good. While when you're physically focused, sometimes you can get crossways of that. So it's not very satisfying to most humans when they hear us say this, but those people who are regarded as the most evil among you are those who are the most separated from the good that they seek. In other words, their very display of the evil that you acknowledge is evidence of the discord or the disconnection from the good that they are seeking. We really mean it when we say, when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And if you've lived a life that is regarded to be evil by those who have watched you, sometimes it is misunderstood, but always at the heart of that beginning place was someone mistreating them. In other words, no one ever comes into this world with evil intent. So when you wonder what it's like as they reemerge into non-physical, we say it is a bigger relief than you could ever imagine. If you have, for them, if you've spent your life experience reaching for what feels good and aligning with it, so that in your powerful now you have all of that support and all of that love of source flowing with you moment by moment in your powerful now, then when you make your transition, you will reemerge into source and you will feel the familiarity of that completely. But what if you've been someone who has been wanting and source has been there with you, and you've been wanting and source has been there with you, but for whatever reason, maybe you picked up a grid that you learned from your parents or from something that happened to you early on, and so you practiced the grid that disallowed your conscious awareness that all that you sought, that all the worthiness and love and goodness that you were looking for was right there around you. In the deprivation, the self-deprivation of all of that, it's always self-deprivation, you can imagine the agony that is experienced. And we have to say to you, for anyone who's looking for a means to punish someone after death or at any time, the deprivation of the source energy that is so much wanted is the punishment of all punishment. Nothing is worse than depriving yourself of who you are and that which you have become, you see. So is there regret? Not once you have reemerged into non-physical, because once you have reemerged into non-physical, there is no place for that, because from the non-physical perspective, there is not focusing upon that which deprives you of the alignment that you've been seeking. Reemerging into non-physical is that pure positive energy place. Let's see if we can describe this in an even better way so that you can feel it completely. So as you're moving through your life experience and knowing what you don't want and knowing what you do want, you have built this vortex that we've been describing, but it didn't just start with this life experience, and it will not end with this life experience. It's the becoming of that which you are. And the source within you, your inner being, or what man wants to call God, is focused upon that becoming of you. Now, when you're up to speed with that, the feeling of worthiness just pours through you. The feeling of love just pours through you. The feeling of appreciation just pours through you. And all kinds of evidence of that grid are coming into your experience. So others look upon you and see you as blessed as well. But as you've been building that grid, not just this lifetime but many lifetimes, and it doesn't stop with this lifetime, as you've built that grid and you're finding something to use as your reason to deprive yourself of alignment with it, then the absence of that connection that you do seek, in other words, this is the thing that we really want to emphasize. If the existence of the vortex is there, and it is, the awareness of its absence is a proportionate discord. And once you have lived like you all have lived, you are masterful creators. You are not new at this. You are genius creators, here to have these magnificent moments. When you deprive yourself of everything that you know yourself to be, you are miserable. And so as you look out into your world, you see people at different degrees of alignment and joy and different degrees of misalignment and misery. And those who are hurting the most are those who have practiced a vibration of personal deprivation the most. We want to assure you unequivocally that when your consciousness leaves this physical perspective and you stop establishing a vibrational grid, and this physical human, this time-space reality point of attraction ceases, that you reemerge swiftly into all that you've become. And the experience is euphoric. The experience is one of ecstasy. The experience is one that each and every one of them, no matter what you think they have done, no matter how evil you think it is, deserve. Everyone deserves the fullness of the desire that they've carved out of this physical life experience, you see.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing to watch humans who have been building the grids of discord and the grids of competition, who then witness some evil deed that they abhor, and then they keep beating the drum of that and therefore depriving themselves of appreciation and love that would be there otherwise. And the more they deprive themselves of the appreciation and love that would be there otherwise, the more they hate and abhor the person who is the object of attention, who seems to be the subject that is causing them to feel that way. In other words, isn't it interesting that they are just picking up on that same chain of pain? But it's hard for any of them to be empathetic or compassionate enough to understand that somewhere it started like that for that person too. They did not start out to be evil. They found something in life that caused them to deprive themselves of enough of the well-being. And when you've deprived yourself of well-being that you really are seeking in a very strong way, you take it really hard. And some of them, what you witness is their reaction. And if you have the opportunity to hear them within the defensiveness that they often speak, you can hear the longing that they have, to return to the well-being.
Are they actually trying to be good, to do good things, and it's confusion or a bad decision-making process?
We would say yes, in the same way that everyone you know is really trying to have a better life.
Right.
And some of them are just having better success at it than others. But it's a misunderstanding that is keeping them from discovering it and finding it. In other words, it is our promise to you that anyone that you know, no matter what degree of pain that they have been living, if they could sit with us for a while, long enough to come to hear these simple points. You are vibration, first and foremost. And you are emitting a frequency that is being matched by all things of same frequency. And that the frequency that you most seek matching with is the frequency of your source. And everything that you long for, every void that you're trying to fill, is to fill that void of pinched off source that is available to you. And you just haven't quite figured out how to get to it. We would say to them, you are energy, you are vibration, and your emotions are the key to that. We would say to them, you are worthy and good beyond our ability to describe it in words, no matter what label your human partners have placed upon you.
Mm-hmm.
And
so would a good definition of evil be then it's the absence of good?
It's the only definition that describes it. It's the absence. Evil is practiced resistance to the good that would be there otherwise.
Okay.
It's like we describe a cork floating on the surface of the water, and we want to call it well-being. We want to call it pure positive energy. And in this conversation, you would call it good. You can hold that cork under the water, and it feels terrible. But when you let go of it, it will bob right back to the surface, because that is your natural state of being, you see. So then the question is often, well, Abraham, if I was pure positive energy, if I am source and was source and felt good and am good, then why would I expose myself to contrast that could get me off the track of that? And this is going to sound strange to you, but that's where more good comes from. More clarity about the good that is wanted is born out of the contrast. More clarity about everything is born out of the contrast, you see.
Right, that does sound strange.
It sounds strange, but law of attraction says that it must be so, you see. In other words, when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And so when you're sick, you ask for wellness, and your species becomes potentially weller as a result of your exposure to that experience. The evolution of everything is about that contrast and that conscious awareness that something better is preferred. And the key to joyful creating is keeping up with the better that life is helping you to carve out. If there gets too much of a gap between what you want and what you're allowing, that's when the discord comes. And some people just get so overwhelmed and lost in the discord that they lose their way temporarily until they reemerge. There is not one who stands among you who is considered to be the goodest of the good, who was not in one lifetime considered to be the evil, most evil of the evil. Maybe that will put it into perspective for you. How do you know how you prefer good if you have not personally experienced the absence of it, you see?
Right. Do we as a generation, a society, a universe get better and better?
Yes.
Okay.
You get better and better. You feel better and better. You become more and more. You become more...
I don't mean as an individual. I mean as, as we come back and reemerge. And
well, we said to someone not long ago that
is it possible that in the future there is no evil?
We said to someone recently that these are the best of times and these are also the worst of times, because the dynamics of the contrast allow more desire to be born, which is the potential for more joy when you line up with it. But the dynamics of more contrast that produces more desire, if you don't line up with it, produces more discord. And so it isn't a matter of wanting to eradicate what you consider to be bad from the buffet or from the kitchen. It's a matter of learning to focus so that you allow yourself to play in the part of the city or the part of the game or the part of the world that you want to play in. Because there's a flawed premise in wanting or believing that if we could just get rid of that bad thing, then in its absence there would be goodness. That isn't how it works. There is unwanted and wanted, and the ability to choose between them, you see. So your world is an interesting world these days because the contrast is greater and there's more pushing against than there's ever been before. But there's also more launching of rockets of desire, and therefore more potential for more joyous acknowledgement of life experience. And as individuals, your world will show itself to you precisely as you offer it vibrationally. So self-empowerment really is the key to joy, isn't it? Because you're always offering a vibration, but if you're not doing it deliberately, then you're not making the association between what you're offering and what's coming back to you. But once you make that association, then you're in control. And then you are no longer guarded or fearful of evil or negative pockets, because you know that they can't come to you if you're not a vibrational match to them, you see. Then there's no reason to push against them because they have nothing to do with you. And then you could be one who could stand in your alignment and hold someone who's been completely regarded as evil by every other person who's ever looked at them, and you could see them through the eyes of Source as they are in their vortex, not in their deprived state of being. And your mere gaze upon them could touch them in a way to make them feel the thing that they've been seeking always, which is to be touched by the love of the Source that is within them, that they had somehow lost track of some time ago along their trail, you see. And nothing will ever soothe you more or satisfy you more than being a catalyst of upliftment to those who are seeking it but have not found their way.